any form of comment on the Westall incident, and this is despite the fact that there was rumored to be, or more than rumored to be, a very comprehensive report that was done on the Westall incident by the now defunct Department of Supply. So there was an official report that was done on the Westall incident, but 58 years later, that report has never seen the light of day, and it has never been released to the general public. Now, either it's been destroyed or it's been locked away somewhere and it's never been found. And you know, that's why I say the Australian Department of Defence and the Australian government has never formally commented on the Westall incident and never provided any explanation through documentary evidence or other what could be attributed to the Westall. They haven't even acknowledged the Westall incident to a significant degree.
So the witnesses say, all the witnesses say the military locked the school down.
Well, so not all of the, I mean, 58 years ago, you obviously your memory fades. I mean, I can't remember what I did yesterday most of the time, but you know, a lot of it's not unreasonable to think that a lot of folks would not remember, you know. So the primary witnesses that I interviewed at this reunion event last year, they were 12, 13 years of age, and one of them was 16 years of age, who was actually a market gardener. He wasn't actually at the school. So you had not just school students and teachers, but you had other members of the public see something as well that weren't on the grounds of the school that day. And, you know, these are all teenagers. And a teacher as well. And so obviously for folks that were children that were younger on the day, they may not remember, or their memory fades over time. And I certainly, you know, I know from my experience, my memories of when I was 6 or 7 years of age, I can't remember nearly anything. So it's not unreasonable to think that memory does fade over time. Some students don't remember if they saw military. Some say they didn't see military, but then there are others that say they absolutely saw military come in jeeps and trucks, and they kind of cordoned off the Grange area. And there were reports of you know, military with Geiger counters, you know, kind of metal detector type instruments, and even soil samples being taken from the Grange area where, you know, a flying saucer, if it was that, made contact with the ground, and it was, you know, was something retrieved. Who knows? You know, there is the witness testimony around something having landed at the Grange is inconclusive. You know, it's being questioned and challenged, but it's certainly clear that something was seen in the sky above Westall High School on the 6th of April 1966. And there have been a number of prosaic explanations that have been put forward, and I cover one of them in my documentary. It was actually Keith Basterfield, the Australian researcher, that put forward a hypothesis that maybe what was seen in the high school above in the skies above Westall High School was called a high bal, a high altitude balloon. And there was, in fact, Project High Bal that operated several hundred kilometers northwest of Melbourne in a place called Mildura, where they had balloon launchings with scientific instruments attached to them that were designed to detect radioactive remnants from nuclear atomic testing in the South Pacific, the Indo-Pacific region. So a hypothesis that was put forward was, well, could it have been a high bal that was completely off course and descended or crashed south of Westall High School, and you know, the government wanted to cover that up because if there was, if it hit the press or the media that a top secret project that was designed to you know, do these scientific, exactly, yeah, was yeah, and what if it had crashed or come down on the high school and was responsible for damaging property or killing children? That would be a complete PR disaster. And that's another hypothesis that has been put forward, that it maybe was a potential PR disaster that they covered up for that reason. But then you speak to and you look in the eyes of these primary witnesses who told me extremely compellingly that what they saw was not a balloon. They knew what they knew what hot air balloons look like. High bal is obviously different to a hot air balloon, but they definitively say it was not a balloon that came down, was seen in the sky above Westall on the day. So it's a really, really fascinating case, and it's one that frustrates so many researchers like myself and Keith and Bill Chalker and Ross and Shane Ryan, because there's just not one shred of documentary evidence that has been made available or seen the light of day that can get us any closer as to concluding what Westall was.
Right. Yeah. Like in comparison to, like, say, the Rendlesham Forest incident, where there's like a plethora of documentation to say something
Audio
happened
recordings
that
and all
day.
that as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the children also they did report beings that day.
So that's where you might be confusing it with the Ariel school sighting in Zimbabwe. So in yeah, so
was that the
West.
one where they're fading? They looked like they were phasing in and out of reality.
I'm not. I can't speak to that, but I know that.
Or it looks like
And
they were running. I think
what is similar across Westall and the Ariel school sighting is that it was a mass sighting incident. It was a mass sighting event. It involved children, and the difference being at the Ariel school sighting, a number of the children reported seeing beings and having some form of contact with beings.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas Westall, there is not any reports that I'm aware of that are, let's say, credible, that talk about beings being observed.
No, you're absolutely right. Now it did. So now I can, in my head, I'm differentiating them. The two always, like, I blend. I tend to blend details. And I have
easy to do across those two cases. Yeah.
But it goes to show you that, because in one of my questions to you is, what was it? God, I can't find it. Of course.
And I mean, that's an I don't know a whole lot about the Ariel school sighting. I mean, other than just what I've seen with a documentary that was put out a year or two ago. And I know Dr. John Mack researched it, obviously, but that's another fascinating case. But Westall is the one at home that I've been doing my homework on.
Like, looking ahead, this is what I was going to ask is, what developments or trends do you anticipate, but or have you seen in the UFO field? And this is one that we see is sightings, a large number of children citing something and being given a message of some sort, technologically, and this is that trend goes through a lot of alien abduction scenarios. Now, again, I'm kind of a nuts and bolts guy myself, but what is your take on the abduction phenomenon? And
look, it's not one that I've ever entered into the foray on. I've always kind of, like yourself, been very nuts and bolts and trying to. My focus always has been at engaging government and obviously the Department of Defense. I mean, I am intrigued, though, and I'm fascinated by folks that have approached me in person and online that have felt comfortable to share with me, something that happened to them, or at a minimum that they believed happened to them. And it's not it would be shameful of me to judge someone based on, what they have decided to share with me and had the courage to share with me, because of the ridicule and stigma that's associated with this topic. I don't necessarily have to, believe what they're telling me to take them seriously, or entertain it as a really interesting account or experience. I am constantly, I appreciate the fact that people do feel comfortable to reach out to me and share with me their story. And there have been instances where folks have, and I've said, look, well, there's unfortunately not a whole lot I can do to help further your investigative efforts or the conversation, because it's not my wheelhouse. However, I do know some people that may be very interested to take a formal record of your account. And I've referred a couple of folks to a gentleman by Roger Stankovic, who is the Australian New Zealand director for MUFON. And so folks that have reached out to me, I've taken a summary of what their experience was, and I've relayed that onto Roger, and he's been quite happy to then have a conversation with them and formally document their sighting or their case. So I do think that the experiencer phenomenon is it's a fascinating one, and I hope in due course that experiencers are given their time of day, and because the whole focus around the UAP topic thus far has been about breaking the walls of stigma down around about just feeling comfortable to talk about it, and feeling comfortable for folks that see something to say something.
Yeah,
whereas now, and now that it's a lot more, people are a lot more comfortable just to have the conversation about the UAP topic. Case in point, I was traveling, and I've told the story once or twice before. I was traveling back to my, where I was born in Sydney, and I was doing some research at the time on the Phoenix Lights, because I did a documentary on Kurt Russell's encounter with the Phoenix Lights of March 1997. And I was going through security, and my bag got screened, and they pulled it aside, and they wanted to go through it. And the screener opened my bag or was going through my bag and then doing the wand, and I had Dr. Lynn Kitai's book on the Phoenix Lights, which I was reading for research at the time. And before I knew it, I was into a almost 10-minute conversation with this screener in between him doing other bags about the UAP topic and the Phoenix Lights. So it's a lot. I'm surprised how easy it is to have a conversation with folks that I've never met, or run into at an event and start talking about the topic, and they don't treat it with the laughing under their hand or saying, oh, it's all BS. And people are a lot more, in my opinion, in my experience, people are a lot more comfortable to have the conversation about UAP because of everything that's happened since 2017, and it's constantly being talked about in the press, News Nation, US congressmen and women. And my only hope is that we get to a point where the stigma and ridicule comes down around on the experiencer side, because there are well and truly people out there that have experienced some pretty fascinating experiences, as well as some incredibly scary ones. And I only hope that they reach a point where they can feel comfortable to come forward, and the likes of folks. I mean, Whitley Strieber, we know he's been one that's talking about his experience for a long time. There have been many, many others that have come forward, and the more conversations that are had at the experiencer side, and I know that there was, there are some experiencer groups and coalitions out there. There's the was it UAP Med, which is Ted Rowe is a part of. There are a number of other experiencer groups out there as well, where they're advocating for the conversation to be had at the experiencer level, and it's creating a safe space for experiences to come in and open up and have the conversation. So hopefully, just like on this topic, where more and more people start to talk about it, and there's a degree of safety in numbers, that will ring true for experiences in due course as well.
That's it's amazing. Do you think? I mean, because I always, or when I have an experience on the show, I mean, one person said it to me, and it kind of put it into context. It was like, think about this: we are the last group of people who can say that we've been kidnapped and potentially sexually abused and not taken seriously. Like they are the last group of people that can do that, that can say that and not, be taken seriously. Because, this day and age, everything, everyone's, there's this equality movement for everybody, everywhere. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it really is the last frontier of people who can say that, they potentially been sexually abused and no, like the cops will literally laugh at them,